Why don't we start with the Mets? I think we wanted to talk about like it's a 10 days or so. We've now up to games beginning. What concerns us? You want to start with the Mets? What concerns you about the Mets?
Well, the same thing that came into camp concerning me, which is the bullpen. I mean, Devin Williams, he's moved 8 miles. I don't know whether that's going to solve his the closing woes that were obviously present in the Bronx. Maybe he was very good as a setup guy with the Yankees. He was very good as a closer with Milwaukee. To me, the bullpen is the question with the Mets. We've got arm questions. I think Raley and Minter are good pitchers, particularly Minter when they're healthy, but questions there in terms of the health. They did add Weaver. That bullpen looks thin to me. So to me, that's their biggest question. Peralta, that was a nice move. Yeah, I think they've improved the defense a little bit. I know all that talk about the defense was so terrible. I don't think they've improved it that much, but they improved it. I like Bichette's bat. It's certainly a very interesting team. Is it a better team? I'm not completely convinced that it is.
Yeah, John, they have great variable there. Like you could convince me it's 80, you could convince me it's 94.
It better
Like
not be 80. That
yeah,
would be quite a
well,
disaster.
I couldn't believe it was 83 last year. So I mean,
Can we get lower than 83? I think that's the
well, I'm with you. I have some concerns about the bullpen. I do. I will say this is I left that camp feeling much better about one thing and much worse about one thing. The thing I felt much better about was their starting pitching. Now I know how frivolous that could be. You're always whatever, but like you watch McLean do everything. I mean, from what he is in the clubhouse to how he prepares to what he looks like on the mound with health, I think he's an ace. I mean, an ace. Like he's going to be one of the best. I think he'll get Cy Young votes. Forget about that. He's the favorite for the rookie of the year. If he makes 28, 29, 30 starts, I think he's spectacular, which means like Peralta is your number two starter, which means that they get two things they didn't have all of last year. If they can get like 50 to 60 starts out of those guys, and then suddenly Senga and Minaya, just one of them and then Clay Holmes and Peterson. I just think their starting pitching could be good. I'm with you. I have questions about the bullpen. They've got 6 weeks to do this, John, and I agree. I think the defense is better because they're better up the middle. Simeon, Robert, their catchers
right,
are very good. Lindor
right.
will get healthy and be good. I watched Bo Bichette do drills early in it. I am no scout, but I've obviously watched thousands and thousands of baseball games, and someplace in my mind's eye is what a third baseman looks like. And he just, for now, it's all new to him. He doesn't look it in his movements, in his arm stroke, in his arm strength. And like, I never thought Jazz Chisholm did either, but Jazz Chisholm was always the best athlete on the field and kind of overcame some stuff with just some quick twitch, unreal stuff to make himself somewhat average and still not be the guy. Bichette comes from a baseball family, has a high baseball intellect. I think he'll close the gap some, but for a team that was stressing defense, I'm watching the drills. And again, this is unfair. These are the first drills he's ever done in a camp as a third baseman. So I'll be back in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to Met camp. I'm curious to what it looks like by the end. But to the mind's eye, John, it didn't look like a third baseman.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to be spectacular at third. It's not an easy position. Jazz Chisholm is a great athlete, as you said, has a great arm, speed, range. He was fine. Look, A-Rod, and I think you did something with A-Rod talking
Yeah.
about it. A-Rod was the best shortstop in baseball, then played third, and he was pretty average the first year. So I don't know, think we can expect Bichette to be better than average, but Beatty was better than average. So I think they likely went down at third base. I think first base is still a work in progress as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Maybe they think they went up. I mean, I know that, but we don't know that for sure. Certainly, Robert is a plus. That helps. Semyon is an outstanding defender. That helps. So the defense is going to be better overall, I think, on balance, on average. But certainly, third base is a question. First base a lesser question, but a question as well.
John, why don't we flip it to the Yankees? We're again, we're I just got back from Bradenton. I know I can't even tell you if it was game 3 or 4 of spring training, but it's early. But early, what are some things that maybe concern you?
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees obviously had a good team, and they brought back this. I mean, running it back. This is the ultimate example of running it back, right? And they could be a little bit better, certainly with Cole coming back around June 1st, we think, and certainly Rodon will be back before long, and they'll have presumably a full year of Schlittler. I get it. My concern is, the fan. I think the team is wondering, they weren't overwhelming last year, right? They won 94 games, but they ultimately didn't win the division, which was the goal. They barely beat the Red Sox in the three-game series, thanks to Schlittler. And then they got blown out in the next series, the division series against Toronto. So it was a good team. It wasn't overwhelming, but it's the same team. So I think that I have the same concerns the fans have. Is it a stale story that they haven't changed anything? I feel like I know that's a weird kind of criticism. I would have liked to have seen something different. I mean, the guys they signed, they had them already, right? It was
Yep.
amazing. They must have loved that team. It was a good team. It wasn't a world-beating team, obviously. It was a good team. They ran the bases better last year. Except for that June swoon, they looked better than they did when they even got to the World Series. But they got blown out by Toronto, and it's the same team. I wonder if the players, I know they're going to say how great they feel about things. I wonder if they're starting to wonder, have the same questions that I have and that the fans have. We're running it back with a team that was good but not great.
Yeah, I think the best version of them, though, was that late season team that was better rounded because of McMahon's defense, because of Caballero's versatility and speed, because of what Bednar did that Devin Williams didn't do, which is settle down the end game. Uh,
Yeah, they
John,
had a great deadline. That's fair.
yeah,
They did have a great deadline. Bednar
and
was
get all
great.
those guys for a full
Right.
season now, plus
Right.
maybe Weathers if they could figure him out, and Cole for perhaps the last 4 months of the season, and a healthier version of Rodon. Look, John, maybe you and I've talked about this in the past. I'll kind of like spill something about how I always think about covering a team, which is you and I grew up on the beat when the Yankees were terrible. And I found that when you cover a terrible team, you're constantly looking for reasons that it might stop being terrible. Like that's how you're covering the team. For the
Right.
last 30 plus years, the Yankees have been really good. So I usually come to spring training thinking, well, why wouldn't they be good? That's the more interesting column to me when I'm writing, which is like I could just do the drop to my knees and hail whatever. I think that's a ridiculous way to cover the team. I know there's a lot of fanboys who do it that way, but like I think that part of the job if you're a columnist, an opinion person is to look for the holes. And I got to tell you every spring training I look and go, if this and this happens, this could be the 78 win year they haven't had in 30 plus years. I have a little more trouble doing it this year, John, which probably means this will be the year they win 78. Can I say the thing that worries me is I actually like the team. Like watching, I think, and I don't know what this means. I think that they're like, I watch a lot of practice for a stupid reason after all these years. I think that they're doing things. I think some of the familiarity helps them with how the purpose they're doing things. I watched a bunt drill the other day. The enthusiasm of Max Fried and the professionalism and energy of Ahmad Rosario, I think changed a drill and made everybody crisp for like the kind of fundamental thing that you and I have beaten them up for before. They were working hard at it. I think they have a lot of talent. It is to me, if they can get their starting pitching in line, and who knows what Cole is after Tommy John, you're not usually fully back. But man, that guy is a professor of pitching. If I was going to bet on somebody to kind of figure it out, I might do him. If it's him and Freed and Schlittler is the guy that he was for the 10 starts last year, just I just think they have a way to be really, really good. And their floor is high, which means this is the year they win 70. I'm almost thinking the thing I'm most worried about is I'm usually much more critical of them this time of year, and I kind of like their team.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's a solid team overall. I don't think there's any question about that. Maybe it's me always thinking about the bullpen. I mean, is their
I think the
bullpen
bullpen
good? Is it
But
good? It wasn't good last year. And it's funny. I'm going to say, well, the Mets got Williams. I'm not impressed, but the Yankees lost Williams. That's not great either because he was very good in that role that he was in. And Weaver, was a guy who was always available, friend of the show, but always available to them and to us. And very solid reliever. Yeah, I mean, I think with all the possibilities in the starting rotation, I think that I think it'll be fine. Obviously, they're not going to win 78 games. They have Judge,
right.
so he's a 10-win player, right?
As long
So
as he's healthy, right? He's
he's
a
going to
cheat code.
guarantee they're going to be over 81 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no doubt about
Well,
that
I
now
look
that
at
I
them,
see.
John,
But
and
what about that bullpen? I mean, seriously, Bednar, let's assume he's going to be the same guy
yeah.
who was great. What about the rest of it? Where it wasn't good last year. Are we going to assume Doval is going to be better or Cruz is going to be healthy? I think there are a lot of questions in that bullpen.
I think there are questions. I would just like say today. I think one of the other things that hangs over the team, John, is I know that Hal, in specific, in the Brenner family in general, kind of gets beat up by a certain kind of fan base that they don't care. I'm telling you, being here for 5 days so far, they're still not over losing to Toronto last year. Like they're not. They're not. They were devastated. I know the caricature, they don't care. Their father cared, they don't care. They are like a baseball family now. And like the grandkids of George Steinbrenner are involved. I think they're all like I talked to one of them the other day. He still was talking about it. He can't get over it. And I think that what the reason I bring it up, John, is I
Yeah,
think that like when the deadline comes, I don't know who the best setup man's going to be. But I bet you the Yankees are at the front of the line for it. Like
right. Okay.
I think that they're I'm with you. I'm not sure that guy is on the team today. I do think that historically over the at least the last 10 years, the Yankees have been able to find bullpen guys like and make them. Do they fix Jake Bird, like who they traded for at the deadline last year? I gotta say, watching the kid LeGrand pitch the other day, I think he ends up in their bullpen as Dellin Betances at some point. He's a big kid who's just throwing 103 the other day. Uh, and so I think that they'll do everything they can to fix it. But if you were going to ask me what area of the team is most worrisome today, I would agree with you. I would say the bullpen.
Yeah, I always worry about the bullpen. I mean, I guess we grew up in this job a little bit with Bobby Valentine. He always pointed to the bullpen, and
Yeah,
I don't think either bullpen is that spectacular. I'm sure they're down about it. I don't know if are they devastated. If they're devastated,
they are
well,
devastated,
well, if
John.
they were devastated, they should have improved the team more than they did. I mean, it's been 16 years, so I'm a little bit more with the fans on that one than you. You've been there, so you know what they're feeling more. I was there very briefly, and I didn't get to see or talk to Hal. I mean, if you're really devastated, the year that they won, the last year they won was the year they really went out and spent. I mean, people can say it's not about the money. Well, obviously, someone thinks it does. They want a cap in baseball, the owners do, right? And I do think it's good that they brought Bellinger back. They spend a reasonable amount of money, but I know the Dodgers are the top revenue team now, but the Yankees have been the top revenue
But
team
can I ask
most years, and
who?
they still haven't spent like I feel devastated. If you feel devastated, go out and get somebody who's really going to change the team.
So we know who is just as a way to end this. Why don't we do this?
Yeah,
It's like I'm not I'm here. I'm agnostic generally about your
yeah.
point. Is who? Would you have like been
I didn't I didn't
like get
advocate
Bregman and
Tucker.
trade McMahon? I wouldn't have done Tucker. I'm happy.
No, no.
Like
I mean, you already have the
is it
best right
Bregman
fielder.
and trade McMahon and have the better third baseman for the next 5, 6 years? Is that the way to go? Would he have come here? Are they still holding
I
a
mean, there were a lot of great closers out there. There were like 10, I wouldn't say great, all of them, but there were 10 closers out there. Sign one or two of them. There were, why not go for Diaz? You get Diaz and Bednar, then you have a shutdown bullpen, which was a key in they had Mariano and Wetland, and certainly they had a lot of pluses in those late 90s team, but that bullpen was a big plus. Right now we've been talking about the bullpen. To me, that's the obvious one. Yeah, I mean, certainly Bregman or Framber or Cease or there were guys who would have improved the team, obviously for a ton of money. But to me, Diaz, To me, Diaz or somebody,
I would
he
have
was
gone
the best one.
Suarez. That was the one I
Yeah,
kept looking at.
there were a
Was
few.
Suarez.
There were a few out there who would have made great setup men. If you got Diaz, Bednar is your setup man then, so that's a pretty good
So
setup
this
man.
is the differentiation between them and the Dodgers, to your point. The Dodgers signed Tanner Scott last year, and it was a disaster, and it didn't stop them from doing Diaz this offseason. I think the last time the Yankees kind of went double-barreled action with big money spent in the bullpen, it was Chapman and Britton, and it blew up on them. It didn't work well. And I think they have baseball PTSD from it and don't want to do it again. Not that's an area they don't want to
There's
spend.
nothing wrong with having two great relievers.
John, again,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
with you. I would have tried to do Suarez.
right,
That's the one guy on the board I
right.
thought they should have gone for overkill on.
Yeah, I
Is
just
because
think
I'm
that
not sure
something
the
they need to
Yankees.
do something. It feels like, I mean, running it back. This is the ultimate example of and it was, yeah, like I said, it was a very good team. They won 94 games until they hit Toronto. They were really pretty darn good, and I don't think anyone expected them to be blown out, give up 34 runs in 34 innings, but that's what happened. And they haven't won in 16 years. And if you're really devastated, pay an extra 20 million a year and get Diaz, or 15 million or 12 million and get somebody else really good for the back end. Right now, I'm not that confident in their bullpen.
Yeah, I have some questions about both teams' bullpen also.